Thank you. My guests tonight are Ricky Gervais, star of the inventive and hilarious sitcom The Office. Then there's the woman who's been our witness in countless war zones. She is Kate Adie. Our first guest is one of the few human beings who might have travelled more than Kate Adie. His epic voyages have taken him round the world in 80 days and pole to pole in his own time. His latest adventure is crossing the vast and merciless Sahara Desert. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Palin. Michael, welcome. Last time we met we were kilted and booted, weren't we?
That's right.
Wearing kilts.
Billy Connolly, yes.
That's right.
I think you look rather fine in a kilt, Mike.
Well, you did too. You got the entire gear on, though. You had the Rob Roy bit on. You had the cloak.
I know they kept adding other bits, because this was a party where we were told to dress up in Highland outfits, and there's no Palin kilt, I don't think, so I had to get someone else's. And they kept putting extra bits on, didn't they? Bits of sort of carpet and rugs and things on the head and all that. Then I had to go and dance Strip the Willow, or whatever it was.
Somebody pointed out to me, too, that the Americans had put their telephones in their sporrans, and it was on vibrate. And you see men going on with vibrating sporrans. Not a pretty sight.
Is that the explanation? Oh,
yeah,
I just thought it was a good party.
We're pleased to see you.
Pleased to see you, yeah.
Cross the Sahara in a kilt. That'd be a one to do, wouldn't it? Yeah.
It would be very, very unwise, I think, Mike, because the sand gets everywhere anyway, you know. A long kilt, which of course is what, I mean, they wear long robes in the Sahara, and quite sensibly too.
Why the Sahara? What was the appeal? Was there a kind of boyhood fascination in it?
Well, there was a bit of that, but I've been fascinated in most of the world since I was a boy anyway. I always wanted to be an explorer. And the Sahara seemed to be one of those places one of the few places in the world which remains relatively unexplored. But also, it's this huge area, the size of the United States, which is just off the coast of Europe, and no one ever goes there. No one knows anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's vast expanses where the people who you do meet are extraordinarily remarkable human beings, scraping existence out of absolutely nothing at all.
Yes, I mean, it was all a complete surprise to me, because I thought, you know, it's a great flat area covered in sand. There's very little of the classic sand dunes that you see on the date packets. Most of it's grit and boulders and a bit like the surface of the moon. But as you say, there are people throughout the Sahara sort of eking a living out of this.
Yes.
And we met refugees, and we walked with the Tuareg, some nomads and all that.
What there's a means of transport? Because your golden rule is when you go on these trips, you actually live like the native, don't you? You don't actually, you eat their food.
This is what I say.
This is what you say.
You can find a five-star hotel. We jolly well do. We live like the waiters, we actually do. No, I mean, the idea is to experience, I mean, the sort of travel where you will meet people.
Yes.
So if you can get on a train or a boat, it's much, much better than driving in four-wheel drive.
Yes.
And, of course, camels in the desert.
Do you have a way with camels, sir? Have you?
No, I don't, and it was a really embarrassment. I mean, well, first of all, the first time we went out there, went to a refugee camp in Algeria, and they eat camels there. And they looked after us, lovely people, but they felt we had to have a meat course for breakfast, lunch and dinner. And it was always camel. And it was quite nice.
What's it taste like?
Sweet, slightly muttony taste.
Yeah.
It was perfectly good, but after you've had it for 5 days, three times a day, you begin to sort of think, oh, I just like a bit of spam, you know, something like that. Bacon sandwich, but of course, you can't have a bacon sandwich out there. And on the last day, breakfast was served, and there was camel for breakfast, and it was little bits of camel kidney. And she cooked them for us, and she gave them to me, and as soon as I put it to my nose, I knew this was a camel kidney that was past its sell-by date. But she was looking at me like that, you know? So I could not eat it, because she was so pleased, you know, all this hospitality for us, so I put it in. And then there was another one I had to eat too. And within 24 hours, I just had, you know, my stomach turned to a Kenwood mixer. And I had a really awful, awful 24 hours. Camel's revenge. And all that.
What's the worst thing you've eaten on all your travels? That will be fairly high on the list, I would imagine.
Well, the thing is that you really have to eat what's offered you, I think, because very often it's a hospitality thing. And I remember in a small village in Peru, we landed on, it was an Indian village, and there was a festival on, and a very old lady came up to me and she handed me this gourd, and in it was a kind of pink, sort of yogurty substance. And I looked at it, and she handed it to me, so I sort of drank it, and it was quite nice. It was slightly acrid and all that, but very nice. Thank you very much. Lovely. Thank you. Awfully nice. And then asked the guy what it was, and he said, well, it's a special palm wine that they make for this festival. And the villages, it's so important to them, they cut down the entire sugar crop just to ferment this palm wine. And of course, in places where there aren't any sugar groves growing, they ferment it with the saliva from old ladies. I saw the old lady, she was kind of going... So I said, is there much sugar grown around here? Bit of consultation. No. So if someone had said, you know, have a saliva yogurt, I would probably have said no, but by that time it was too late.
On this trip also, you had you revisited the place where you did one scene for The Life of Brian.
Yes, well, Tunisia. I mean, that was the first time I'd been to the Sahara Desert, was in southern Tunisia in 1978, when I was crucified there, you know, for the last sequence of always look on the bright side. Yes. And so I was one of those few people able to say in a piece to camera, I've come back here because I was crucified here 30 years ago. And so we visited that, yes, and I mean, they've taken it down.
And some mixed memories for you, I would imagine, because in between time, of course, your great friend and indeed mentor of that film, George Harrison, had died, hadn't he?
Yes.
George rescued that film, didn't he?
He did. I mean, EMI had the script, and suddenly we'd actually spent quite a bit of money on preparing the film, and suddenly the head of EMI actually read it and said, we can't, you know, my company can't be seen supporting a blasphemous film like this. And we were building the sets out there in Tunisia. And George Harrison and Dennis O'Brien, his business manager, stepped in and found the money for us, just like that.
Yes.
And George said, well, I did it because I wanted to see the film.
Yes, he was a nice guy, and he often, I mean, lived in the shadow, of course, of the major two, if you like. But it seemed to me that he enjoyed his money, and he's put his money to work in areas that he liked.
Yeah, George he loved spending his money, and had this passion for fast cars, which I always think was rather nice. He had the Indian Karma, and then these manic cars he'd have. And he always liked to take you for a ride in them, and they all go about 390 miles an hour. I remember once in Henley, he said, come on, you want to have a go, take you out in this. And, you know, I got in it, and you know, he said, we'll go to Maidenhead, or somewhere like that. And, no, Marlow, that was it, we'll go to Marlow. And Marlow's only about sort of 10 miles away, and very, very narrow lanes. It's not the place to have a high-performance car. But George got in there, boom, he'd roar off and get behind, find some little old lady in a Morris Minor, and George would wait, and then he'd rev up, and within seconds, if you could see 4 feet in front of it, you'd be into that 4 feet. Boom, it was almost as they went over the top. And so we proceeded from Henley to Marlow in a series of sort of 200-mile-an-hour bursts. I was absolutely terrified by the end. But,
you mentioned earlier, you said that the boy growing up in Sheffield always wanted to be an explorer. So how come that he didn't become an explorer till he'd done all kinds of other things, including being a comedian?
Well, I mean, it wasn't the opportunity for exploring.
In Sheffield?
The careers master at school wasn't very keen to say, I want to be an explorer. No.
Well, it's as daft as saying, I want to be a python.
I know. Well, exactly. I wouldn't say that either. We had actually a wonderful careers master who, I think he was on a retainer from Pilkington's glass. Because everyone in the school, whenever they went, if they were interested in scripture or underwater swimming or sort of set design, he'd say, well, jolly good. I think the job for you, and he'd reach in a desk and get a pamphlet out, Pilkington's glass. And you see all people in school, yeah, I don't know how many people from my school went into Pilkington's glass. There must have been thousands.
It's interesting reading about you, because everything mentions how nice you are. I know you're absolutely pig sick of all that, of course you are. Who wouldn't be? Because you're not really, are you?
No, murdered 3 people on the way here, Mike, but it'll just be in the papers. They'll say they deserved it. They were hanging around with, you know, and...
that nice
Michael had to murder them. Yeah, it's the best thing he could have done for them. What a nice
but the fact of the matter is that there's always been this sort of quite a controversial element in your life. I mean, you mentioned the Life of Brian. I mean, the Pythons were controversial, for God's sake, you know. We frightened old ladies in the street and all that sort of thing.
We were the old ladies.
Yeah. And also, too, I mean, there was the time when you did a Fish Called Wanda, where, again, you took stick because you portrayed the man with a stammer. And you based that character on your dad, didn't you?
Well, that was quite important to me, because John came to me because he said he'd written this wonderful story about a gang heist, and one of the members has a stammer, so at a vital moment, You know, it's very difficult to get the information which they desperately need. And he knew that my father had a stammer, so he asked me about it. You know, what was the technique of stammering? And we talked about various things, the fact that my father could sing perfectly well, but had a terrible stammer when he spoke. And it was, you know, coloured his life completely.
But made him withdrawn and things?
Well, no, it wasn't made him rather sort of aggressive and a bit cantankerous and frustrated, really, because he was a man with a good sense of humour, but, you know, if you've got a stammer, you can't really address a meeting very well, and he was in management and all that, so he must have come back at the end of the day after a series of small failures. And so he did get quite frustrated. But on the other hand, we never ever mentioned it around the table at home. I mean, we just didn't. I talked to my mother about it and why it happened and how he had this stammer, but we never really got to talk to him about it. And after I'd finished doing the show, finished doing Wonder, a lot of people wrote in and said, well, I either should or shouldn't have done it. And some people who were developing a form of therapy for children who stammer got in touch with me and said, well, you know, would you be interested in helping us out? And I said yes, and we now have the Michael Palin Centre for Stammering in Childhood. I think it's hard to say, even if you haven't got a stammer. But, and it's really been a great success. And I think if my father had had that sort of treatment and had been able to go to a place like that, his life would have been immeasurably changed.
So there's a lot you can do for people who stammer.
Yes. It takes time. I mean, there's no miracle cure, and you never cure a stammer, but you can teach people strategies about how to deal with it. I mean, there are plenty of stammerers. Jonathan Miller is a stammerer.
Well, he's interesting because he once told me that there's certain words, like a B, I think it was, he couldn't pronounce. So you get on a bus, instead of saying Battersea, say Camden.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
but it sounds stupid.
I heard that because he lived near Finchley Road and he
right.
couldn't say the F, so he'd get a ticket to Dollis Hill, which he could say, and walk back. but I mean, I think that's probably a better way of dealing with it than sort of pretending it doesn't happen. Or trying to pretend that people who stammer are thick or stupid. It's just absolutely not the case. Usually quite the opposite. I mean, Jonathan's probably one of the brainiest people I know.
Yes, that's right.
And very often it's people who've got a lot to say, and just for some reason it all bottles up. But
so out of that, something very positive has come, something which is engaging you quite obviously by the way you talk about it. You're enthusiastic about it.
Great success, and they're wonderful people there. And it started with one therapist in 1992, and we've now got 12 or something like that. But of course the waiting list is even longer because people have heard about it.
What about those moments, now going back to your exploring, and particularly on this last expedition out to the Sahara, where you're in one of the remotest areas on the planet, when great things happen in the world outside? For instance, you were there September 11th, weren't you?
Yeah.
When that So what were the circumstances in which you heard that news?
We were in a place called Agadez, which is in Niger, and it's about as sort of remote a town as you will find anywhere, right in the heart of the Sahara. And we arrived at this small hotel and heard the news. So the director said, you know, there's been this attack in America. The trade houses have collapsed. It was just absolutely, you couldn't really believe it in a place like that. Now, Niger is about one of the poorest 3 countries in the world. So there's no magazines, no newspapers, no television. The only way we heard about it was from BBC World Service, sort of crackly radio out in the desert. And in Niger, I mean, it didn't impinge on their way of life at all. The people we saw the day before were exactly the same the next morning. I go out in the street, I think people are going to be talking about it, and they're not. They're just getting up trying to sell us things. Hello, hey, come over here, hey, you come here. There was one very tall man who used to say, hey, come over here. I am friend of Ginger Baker. I didn't know quite what I was supposed to say to that, you know. Is Ginger here? Is Ginger around? Should we have jamming? It's got some old cream stuff. Basically just wanted to sell me some jewellery, but it was always this thing. Hey, I'm a friend of Ginger Baker. It was just the same after on the day after.
My favourite character in the first episode of the Sahara is that wonderful guide who takes you around the church, the Christian church.
Oh, yes.
Who says, thank you very much all the time. It's wonderful. I mean,
we
shouldn't really laugh at that. But,
no, he was a delightful man. He knew he was just having a happy time. He just said, thank you very much all the time. Hello, I'm Mama Shirley, thank you very much. Yeah. I'm 48, thank you very much. I've been here 30 years, thank you very much. You come and see the church, thank you very much. But he's, you know, he was a terrific character. And then he took us to meet his wife after the filming and got the wife out of the kitchen. Said, come out, my loved one, come out, my loved one. He said, 40 year we are together, 40 year, thank you very much. And she was sort of grasping me.
She rather fancied you, actually.
Kissing and cuddling. She took a bit of
She took a shine to you, mate, yeah. She did. She was what's called a...
Aftershave.
She was a comfortable woman, wasn't she?
She was a comfortable woman. Thank you very much.
And just on that thought too of being in a very remote place when traumatic things happen, one of your worst experiences must have been when you actually were abroad, not on this trip, and you heard the news that your wife Helen had been taken seriously ill.
Yeah, yes, that was horrendous. I wouldn't ever want to go through that again. And it happened in Borneo, in a place called Sarawak, and we were upriver. We'd spent 3 days with rather ironically, a tribe of headhunters. And we'd come down and got to the hotel, and they said, there's a phone call for you from your wife. And Helen rings me very rarely when I'm away, because it's always, you know, I ring her usually. And it's always a worry when I hear she's rung, and I think it's going to be the children or some problem like that. So I went upstairs, took the phone call in my room, and she had to tell me that she had a brain tumor, but it was a benign tumor. So I mean, it was difficult enough for me, but imagine what it's like for her to get that news out without me totally freaking out. So she just said, yes, I've had a problem, it's been diagnosed, it is benign, it's absolutely fine, there's no problem, it's going to be taken out in 4 or 5 days. You know, I mean, a completely helpless feeling. You're so far away. But anyway, it was all right in the end. So I came back after she came out of hospital, about 3 days after the operation. And I came back, and it was one of these long-haul flights. I arrived back with a streaming cold, you know, terrible old wreck. And she's just come out of a brain tumor operation, she's looking after me and making sure I've got some food and all that. It's not the right way around. It's not a nice thing to happen. You do feel utterly helpless and distant.
And yet, for all that, the allure is still there of distant places. I mean, the question is, a corny question, but what are you looking for?
Employment, right?
Thank you very much.
Employment and strange foods. No.
What will you say? You see, you say in your book, the accompanying book to Sahara, called, strangely enough, Sahara, you say in the end that the only conclusion you come to is that there is no paradise on earth.
Absolutely.
So, is that what you're looking for?
No, I'm not looking for a paradise. I'm looking beyond, I suppose, the solutions. And we live in a world full of solutions. People say you can sort this out, you can sort that out. If you do this, if you bomb that, if you deal with that, then you'll sort it all out. We'll all be okay. And I know it's not like that. My gut feeling it isn't like that. No. And what I want to find out is what it is like. And really the only way is to meet people out there, to go and talk to them. Even the smallest meeting makes you get to know something about them, which I think makes the world a safer place. I think it's when we say we're not going to talk to them, we're not going to speak to them, these people have nothing to say, and we cut ourselves off, that is when we are at our most dangerous. So I suppose I'm just going out there to make myself feel a little bit safer and win a few friends. Please. Hello. Hello, world.
All right. Well, it's called Sahara. It starts
on the 13th.
13th. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And the book's out now.
The book is out, and a wonderful buy at a snip at £3,000.
That's right. Michael Palin, thank you very much indeed. Michael Palin. Music now, a marvellous new singer and musician who's been described as having a voice you'd sell your soul for. Her debut album, Come Away With Me, is full of good things, including the song which first announced her talent. Ladies and gentlemen, Norah Jones. song from Norah Jones singing Don't Know Why. Another song from Norah later on in the programme. My next guest made her name in the toughest job in journalism, covering wars. In television, it was a man's job until she came along and proved she could mix it with the best of them. She tells her life story in her book, The Kindness of Strangers, a fascinating account of a remarkable woman. Ladies and gentlemen, Kate Adie. Very well, sit down. So, strongmen quake as she approaches. It is said of you that when the army see you coming, they know it's going to get tough. The war's about to start. Is that true? No.
I hope not, I hope not. And I don't quite know how it happened, because I never ever thought I'd go into those situations, ever.
Well, it's interesting because in your book you paint the picture of yourself as a child growing up in Sunderland, and you say you were shy, you were hard of hearing, and you hated asking questions. So how on earth do you get a job that you've got?
Big mistake in a way. Well, I had a degree from university in Swedish and ancient Icelandic.
That'll be useful.
Yeah, well, got a bit tough down the job centre. And I was interested in doing anything, really, that took me a little bit out and further from my hometown. I was nosy, I was curious. And I'd done a radio programme in my final year at University of Newcastle, and it was a quiz programme. I sank my team on the last question, so I really couldn't appear on the campus for a long time. But I thought, all of those people who'd been involved in the radio programme, the BBC, they seemed to have a great job. I mean, this was work. I was fascinated by it, and I was hooked from that point on.
But do you still think when you're standing in a war zone with bullets exploding around you and tanks firing that this is a job, I mean, that you wanted?
It has its grimmer moments. It does have a darker side. But I think a lot of people assume that the whole thing is a grim and extraordinarily depressive task. I approach it from the point of view of the world is interesting. It's full of interesting people. It's full of people to meet, things to see. And the job of a reporter gives you the chance to poke your nose in and say, look, this is really interesting. Can I find out more about it? And I've always wanted to do that. And war is just the same. There's so much to see, so many stories to hear from people, so much to say, I didn't know that happened. More people ought to know about that.
Do you think that you bring, because you are a woman, do you think you bring a different eye to war? By that I mean that most men grow up as boys, they're given guns to play with, they understand about war, there's that macho pride that they have. They did national service up until, the sort of 50s, 60s. Therefore committed to the army life and the idea of soldiers. Now, women are not like that at all. They're not. And I wondered if you felt that you did approach it differently.
I started off when I was very junior, not as a reporter, but a producer in local radio, stating rather firmly, I didn't think there was any difference in how you approach the job. I'm not so sure now, because I think that having spent a lot of time in places like Bosnia, with the war right around you and no escape from it, and seeing how people in their intimate daily lives are affected in every way. This is not just the soldiers on the front line, the guys going off to the trenches with the guns. You notice extraordinary things happen to people who want none of the fighting, who have no part in it, who are not asked about it, and who are no part of the process. They just end up being affected by war. I can remember an extraordinary moment in Sarajevo, going to see this woman I can't remember why we'd gone to see her, but we knocked at the door, pushed the door open, went up onto the second floor of a block of flats in the middle of Sarajevo, which are very badly damaged by shell fire. And a very excited little girl ran towards us and said, the electricity's on today, electricity's on. And this was quite a moment because the power stations were nearly all gone and there was very rarely power. And she said, Mummy's, busy. And we went into this room and there was this woman hoovering. There's nothing odd about that, except that the room had no walls. And all the dust and muck of the streets was in. But she was going to keep up appearances. She was not going to have her life affected. This was war, but it could stay at arm's length. That sort of thing absolutely riveting.
Well, that's very moving. Also, it's very telling, isn't it?
Yes.
how people cope with extreme situations.
I'm absolutely fascinated by this, not in a ghoulish way, because it gives me some idea that people get through things.
Yes.
I think it's wonderful to see what people do.
You make the point too in the book, interestingly, that it's not the big momentous battles, it's not the tank warfare and that sort of thing that you find most affecting to you personally. It's the small incidental things that happen around you that you find the most difficult to deal with.
Hugely, yes.
Could you explain?
There are,
give us an example.
When you see warfare, you know, at full blast, it's awesome. If you're on the deck of one of those great Nimitz aircraft carriers, the American ones, and you have the catapults, huge, great steam catapults, thrusting these fighter planes and the bombers off the decks, and there's all the bombs and missiles piled up. You can't hear to think. It's all a darkness, it's flashing lights, it's smell, it's everything. It's awesome stuff. It's terrifying, and so is tank fire. The very middle of you, you know, just quakes. It's truly fearsome, fearful stuff. And yet, for all of that, I mean, the things I retain, I'm going back to Bosnia, walking into a village one day which had been ethnically cleansed, people chased out. Often there was only the old people left. And I remember a little old lady waddling up the road towards us, trying to tell us something, and we finally, through an interpreter, understood that her family had been missing for a year. She hadn't seen any of her family. But she was pointing to what was really the problem. All she'd had left was her cow. She was pointing behind us, and we passed a dead cow on the road. And she waddled past us, and she was very arthritic. And she got down by the side of the road and just patted the cow. That's all she had, and it was gone. I don't forget things like that, and that shows me, at least, what happens during war.
And Northern Ireland too, the Christmas tree
Oh,
story. I was particularly moved by that.
Yeah, well, we went off one night, as was so common, you know, just a quick phone call had come in from someone, maybe a neighbor, where there'd been an incident in a rather derelict road with a lot of people moved out and rather empty houses, but one or two people still there. Got there very fast. Got there before, in fact, most of the emergency people and security people turned up. And being naive, I went straight into this house. The light was on, little Edwardian house, front room, just before Christmas, and there'd been a shooting. I went straight into the front room, there was a little boy standing there, and he said, "Me daddy, me daddy." And he pointed, and on the floor was his father, lying dead under the Christmas tree. I've never felt more inadequate in my life. I mean, you're a reporter. This is really at the core of being a reporter. What are you there for? You know, there's very little you can do. And you don't know him. He doesn't look to you particularly for comfort. I managed to grab a couple of neighbors who are on the doorstep and sort of get them to say, take him out. You're a reporter. What can you do about that? So you can remember it. You can report it as straightforwardly as you can, without the sentiment. It's just a terrible, another incident. But they do stay with you, those things.
But you see, now, given all that, and it argues the question, the obvious question, why do you put yourself through it? I mean, was there in your life, well, I know the answer to this one, there was a moment, I mean, you describe in the book very movingly about how you came to have a sense of injustice, and it happened when you were a young person.
When I was at university, I was sent off to Berlin to do a course in German. And on the way back, this is the time when there was still huge tension between East and West, great trouble with the Soviet Union. We were coming on the train from Berlin through East Germany. And there was a group of people stuffed onto the train, which was jam-packed. Absolutely. We were all squished into this little compartment. And it turned out, after I chatted to these people for a bit, who were very, very nervous, that they were being moved, finally, into West Germany, having been sort of marooned at the end of the war. And 20-odd years later, here they were, finally being shunted out of the East into the West. And they were going to a new future, and they had all their worldly goods with them. And there was a big gang of them, and they were sort of, every so often, they'd ask me a question or two. They knew nothing about the West. They were terrified about coming to the border. And the train stopped. short of the border of West Germany. There we were on Eastern Territory, and all the people were ordered out of the carriage. Huge shouting, people were prodded with rifles, they were stuck up against the side of the train. They were just terrorized. I'd done my British bit, sort of saying, you know, sort of, I'm British, so I decided to sit there. And just before they were all off, and a couple of the old ladies were left on, one of the sort of rather more bold, younger women said, you know, would you take the baby for a bit? She had her tiny baby wrapped in a huge, great shawl. She said, you know, would you sort of, and I said, no, fine, fine. Took it, sat there. So when the guards came on and they shouted, I produced a passport, hung onto the baby, and they prodded these old ladies and they shouted to everyone. Finally, everyone piled back on the train. They were in a terrible state. They'd had things taken from them. Their bundles had been thrown out the window and were left in the field as the train chugged off. This was all they had. Their worldly goods were being thrown out by these soldiers. And when we got across the border, I said, this is West Germany, it's the Helmstedt crossing point, you're safe. They didn't believe it. And then finally, one of the old ladies broke down, took the baby from me, and unwrapped the shawl, and out fell all their jewelry and their gold. Everything they'd ever saved. And I suddenly felt, hang on a moment. Only because I was hanging on to it. They could have lost everything. How can people treat other people like this? Why? What's the reason? How dare they? And I think I was particularly felt strongly about it. I was only about 18 or 19. And I'd never seen anyone treat anybody of my parents' generation like that.
Not seen them fearful.
No. How could you actually, how dare you do that to other people? I still feel strongly about it. I loathe the sight of violence. It's people bullying people, people with guns threatening others. I think it's wrong. Absolutely wrong.
You've been threatened with a gun.
Yeah, and I'm a complete and utter sheep. You know, I just say, what do you want me to do? I get terrified. I'm very, very frightened. Very frightened. I mean,
You were nearly murdered by one Libyan.
Yes, yes, I nearly lost it. I've got little bits of me missing. I've been very lucky.
You've been shot 4 times?
Yeah, little bits are missing, nothing vital.
No.
Yeah.
What about the business about being the woman in this man's game? I mean, whichever way you look at it, it's dominated by men. When you're going into a war like into the Gulf, I mean, you're sharing your entire existence with 2,000 other guys. I mean, little practical problems of being a woman in life with all these men. Tell me.
Should we talk lavatories?
Oh, shall we?
I found it. I went off in uniform with the British Army in the Gulf War, and I was very apprehensive about it, and I thought, how am I going to actually cope? There were 2,000 blokes in my unit and me. How was it? The first morning, we'd actually deployed into this very flat desert, very stony, bleak place in northern Saudi Arabia. And everybody raced out of the tent, got their plastic bowls, and started washing. I realized all the blokes were, you know, stripping down. So I sort of sat there for a bit going, on the sand, and finally realized the only thing to do was to go back in the tent, because they really were stripping down. You know, they didn't want this sort of woman who's old enough to be their mother, sort of looking at them, you know, going, oh, fine, yes. So I went back in the tent, and I solved that, you see, and I got washed sort of quietly by myself. And then there's the next thing you have to do. And I thought, right, fine, this is a desert, palm trees. There are no palm trees in that part of the Libyan desert for about 1,000 miles. There are no hills. There are no dunes. It's flat. And every time I look around, there's another 300 blokes. I grew absolutely desperate. So the first day I gritted my teeth and didn't drink much water. I kept saying, they must say, drink 3 litres of water a day. No, thank you. Yeah, fine. No, don't worry. And so I waited until nightfall. So I set off 200 yards only from the camp, which was what we were allowed to do in the dark, otherwise I was going to get very lost, following a tank track so that you didn't sit on a mine, yes. Just in case, that would be a surprise. And, you know, performed. Feeling really rather strange in the dark and wondering which way to look and hoping there wasn't a moon. And I did this for 3 nights running. And I came back, and on the 4th morning, the colonel in charge of our unit, who was an absolute charmer, said to me, Kate, could we have a word about the properties of the British Army Standard Issue SA-80 rifle? And I said, why? I said, you know, we journalists don't have guns. Thank God, because we'd have shot each other by then. And he said, well, I'd like to talk about the properties of this rifle. It may, Kate, he said, interest you to know that whatever its sort of property is when it comes to shooting people, it's got a bloody good night sight on it, Kate, and they're all using it. So don't bother wait till nightfall.
Could you do this job that she does?
I don't think I could. I mean, I do admire your cool, and I admire the fact also that you get into dangerous situations. We never could. Whenever we got into dangerous situations, it was a complete farce. We were in Algiers on Sahara. We were about the first film crew to be allowed to go into the Casbah, which is the centre of revolutionary activity in Algiers, and we had about 40 police, and we were briefed as to what to do before going in there, and we were outside the Casbah being told, you know, you can only walk this way, there'll be someone here, be someone there. And suddenly we heard some noise and vehicles coming sharply around the corner. And we all rushed and flat on the ground behind any vehicles. It was a little wedding party going by. A group of people playing pipes in the background, rather jolly men in red hats throwing almond cookies around. And I was absolutely, you know, well.
So can I ask you, are you gearing up for Iraq? I mean, do you think, so two questions, do you think it might happen? And if it does, will it be there?
I never speculate. It's one of the rules of my game. I've seen the unexpected so often that I don't take and spend the time thinking what might be. And the other thing is, I do remember now, back to the time in the desert when we were doing that Gulf War, and I remember my fear. I was very frightened. I was not so much frightened that I might end up as a sort of small pile of something disgusting as a result of a chemical attack. It wasn't so much that. It was the thought that all of these people around me who you get to know, because it's an extraordinary kind of time when you get to know people quickly and you appreciate them and you're all part of this extraordinary unit. And I thought of all of these great guys who were around me. I could not bear the thought of them not coming back. I've never forgotten that fear, the apprehension I had about that. And I therefore don't look ahead to that sort of possibility again. But if you have to do something, well, you do it.
Kate Adie, thank you very much indeed. Kate Adie. Someone once said the essence of good situation comedy was to come up with a character everyone can identify with. Well, my final guest achieved this in his acclaimed comedy series, The Office, which returns to BBC Two next week. The Office is managed by one of the most appalling monsters in all of sitcom, the boss from hell, the Brentmeister General, David Brent.
We'd like to know now. Okay. Right. Okay, gather. Yeah, you are. Well, there's good news and bad news. The bad news is Neil will be taking over both branches and some of you will lose your jobs. Yeah, yeah. Those of you who are kept on will have to relocate to Swindon if you want to. Yeah. Stay. I know. Gutting. Yeah, didn't see that. On a more positive note, the good news is I've been promoted. So, every cloud. You're still thinking about the bad news, aren't you?
What a wonderful scene, isn't it? Ladies and gentlemen, meet the man who created and plays David Brent, Ricky Gervais. Gervais. Oh, welcome to the show.
I planned that. I was so nervous. I met Kate in the dressing room, I was going, when you come, what do I do? Are you going to shake out? Or are you going to... I was scared I was going to kiss her. She went, what are you doing? So she said, what? I said, what cheek? What, the first one cheek? And then she went, security, they took me out. I was so... See, I worry about these things.
Why? Why do you
I
worry?
don't know, you don't want to make a fool of yourself. I even made sure I had tread on my shoes so I didn't slip. I bought new shoes, but they were too slippy. This is true.
You could walk up the wall in those shoes.
I know. See,
Spider-Man
I do
shoes.
these things, but this is Parky. You don't say no to Parky. I've been going out going, oh, God, what's he going to ask me and stuff. I'm always thinking of something. The show last week I watched, so I was getting more... Tom Hanks, David Bowie, the biggest film star and rock star in the world. This week, a bloke from Reading.
Did Michael Palin offer you any advice at all?
Well, and that's another thing.
Yeah?
Out of the shadow, the 11 o'clock show, the second funniest bloke on the 11 o'clock show. Right? And I thought, well, it's OK, Parky, he's never going to put on another comedian, particularly not one as good as, say, Michael Palin. So I went over to him and said, don't be too funny. I went, I'm so nervous. He went, you should be. If you muck up on this, it's the end of your career. I thought it was nice.
Charming, it made you feel at home.
I know. Yeah. So, and now I'm thinking, I didn't know you were going to show a clip. I'm thinking, do I get paid for that on top of my fee?
You do?
Yeah.
Because you wrote it and appeared in it too, you get double bubble.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Do you get paid every time they show a clip of Rod Hull?
Yes, I do.
It's great, isn't it? I thought that was brilliant. And I really liked that. Honestly, I really liked him. So it was really sad when he died, particularly when how he died, he slipped, and that's because he lost a grip, apparently. No, he sustained an injury earlier in his career, where someone hit him with a shoe.
No, you can't make me feel guilty about that. I mean, it's too much of a cross to bear in any case.
You thought you were killing an emu, didn't you? Anyway, you must have some questions. Shoot.
I do.
Before you start, I haven't been anywhere.
You've been nowhere.
No, I've seen nothing. I mainly eat cheese.
You've been to Reading.
I've been to Reading.
Been to Reading.
She
so
won't go there.
Let me ask you, how are the twins?
Oh, yeah. Right, let me explain.
He has twins.
Yeah. I don't. Now, this is the thing. I did an interview a couple of years ago, one of those, little celebrity bits. Oh, it's embarrassing saying that word, isn't it? And it was something like My London, and it was all like really fluffy questions, like who would you want to be stuck in a lift with? My mate Glyn, he's got a toolbox, and I wasn't playing, and I was just like, I'm so embarrassed, and they said, if your flat was on fire and you could only say 3 things, what would it be?
Oh, yeah.
So I went, oh, my cat, my salamander. I said 3. She went, yeah. I went, oh, one of the twins. she just went... So this came out, and irony doesn't work on
No, it
anyway.
doesn't
And then
work,
about a year later, I was being interviewed by a journalist, and she said, so what are the twins' names? I said, I said, so you thought that I'd cat salamander? One of the twins. I've got to be very careful what I say.
So the idea of becoming a celebrity arrived to you at a fairly sort of mature stage in your life.
What are you saying?
Well, you mocked around for a long time, doing Sweet FA, really.
No, I was people watching.
You're people watching.
Yeah, I was writing it all down for the office. Yeah, it did, but it was. I never tried to be famous or become a celebrity. It was accidental, really. It was another office job that started it all off. I went to be head of speech at a local radio station, and I started writing out, jokes and that. I thought, it's too much like hard work. So I just started going on and saying them, and then I got an audition for the 11 o'clock show, and I was already writing the office. Yeah.
It works brilliantly for a couple of reasons. One is that it's this lovely approach you have, this sort of doco soap thing. It's made in a documentary style. And the other is, two of the actors convince you that while acting, and of course they are, and having learnt lines, that they are in fact just real people.
Well, we didn't know anything apart from it was all about casting. I mean, that really is, that's about all we knew, and we took,
3 years writing and casting. That's how long it took, because we wanted it to be right. And as we wanted to do more and more of it ourselves, it took a bit longer, because first of all I went in there and, you know, who's this bloke? You know, who is he? And we showed them the video, they went, well, all right, we prefer Bill Treacher in the role, but they didn't say that. And then we went, and we're writing it all ourselves, and then we said, oh, and we'd like to direct it. Have you directed before? Is there a lot to know?
What about the main character, though, the Brent Meister?
Yeah.
David Brent. I mean, is he somebody that you met in your office life? Somebody?
Yeah. Derek Matthews of 14. No, it's not based on anyone in particular. It's a Frankenstein of. Originally, the idea, apart from that, it was more an impression, you know, of a bit of a pretentious person going through a midlife crisis who needed to be loved. It was that. It was just, you know, an observation.
But he's appalling, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's nothing about it. There's no redeeming feature at all.
See, I don't know. I was asked to do one of those top 10 TV bastard things.
Yes.
And all the way through, I was thinking, well, he's not a bastard, really. He's as you say, he's a bit of a twit.
He's stupid.
He is. He's desperate as well. He desperately wants to be loved, and you know, we're all one step away from it. And most of us make a fool of ourselves, you know, once a day, but there's one person there. But when the Jeopardy's up and it's being filmed, and you know, he keeps trying, and he just makes it worse for himself. And he's not that bad. He's just confused popularity with respect, and I think that's the wrong way to go. It's not a snobby look at, you know, 9 to 5 or Slough or, you know, white collar. I've done those jobs, and I would again. It's more about kidding yourself. It's more that if you're really not happy, don't wake up at 65 and go, oh no, I was going to be an artist. What? No, you know, that's.
What about, it's also about the kind of way that people can work together without touching each other. I mean, there's the guy Tim who builds the guy Tim who builds the files and separates.
I
him
did
from,
that.
You did
I
that.
Did that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
Because we went open plan in the office I worked in, and I just thought, oh, I don't want to be open plan. So I just think. So I built. That was time for me to leave, wasn't it? Really. It was like a wigwam at one point. I found a curtain, I pulled it across. Oh God! And I just think, you know, did people take a vote when they just go open plan? Because I think if you ask them, they go no. If you said you can either be in a lovely, huge, air-conditioned office with all these people, or you can have a cupboard that you've got a lock on it and a curtain, I think everyone would go, I'll have the cupboard, definitely. Yeah. I certainly would.
You would.
Yeah, no, I think absolutely.
What about the show itself? I mean, the office.
Well, what I like. No, I don't like the show.
No.
His character's good. No. I think what I love about the character is that he digs himself into a hole and then digs deeper, trying to get out. I mean, that's a wonderful thing to see someone completely floundering and saying the wrong thing, which is it's sort of the same thing that John was doing in Fawlty Towers. You say, stop here. You know, you've done your bit. So, I know, before your time, Ricky, but there was a John Cleese. But...
Now, let's talk about one other aspect of your career which fascinates me, because you became a talk show host, didn't you?
Were you nervous?
I was. I watched and I thought...
Yeah.
It could all end here.
The guest, it could. I think that was the thing. I think there was one last shot of all the, you know, those before they died. I think Channel 4 said, go on, interview them. We tried about 500 people.
How many people accepted?
Well, we got the 12 needed eventually. But the problem is, I think they either hadn't heard of me or they had. In fact, a couple of guests, I won't say they were actually booked for some of the shows, and after the first one went out, they called and made an excuse.
Did they?
They did. We can't. Oh, that Friday. No, I'm washing my hair. What was that? That was Duncan Goodhue. No, they no, they did. They called.
Who was your favourite guest, by the way, of the 12 who accepted? Who was the one that stands out in your mind?
I really enjoyed talking to Midge because that was a nice chat. Oh, Michael Winner, I suppose.
Michael Winner?
Was good for... Well, I think most of the guests sort of got it.
Yes.
But when I always went to the guests, and I met them beforehand, and I said, look, is there anything you don't want to talk about? Because it wasn't really about you know, embarrassing them. It was more about me saying ridiculous things in front of them,
Yes.
much more than, you know, trying to embarrass them at all. And Michael, when I got up, the biggest role, it was like a house. It was like a house on wheels. And he got out and a bloke put his jacket on for him. And I went, oh, thanks for doing the show, Mr. Wynn. Is there anything you don't want to talk about? He said, you can talk about anything, but just be polite. And I went, well, that's sort of the joke, or not really. And it was all going very well, and he was getting along with it, and he did this routine about, I'm in a restaurant, I wave the thing and I bang the table. And I went, just how much chef's piss have you drunk in your time, do you think? It was good sport.
Good sport.
Yeah, no, he was really good.
But the show got taken off him.
Yeah.
Well,
it didn't get taken off. Channel 4 wanted to see some changes, ratings, mainly. I wasn't willing to compromise. I said it's 1.1 million or nothing.
Now, you got the new series of The Office starting, the second series, and this coming week.
Yeah.
Is it? And I don't suppose is it different? Is it? Why change it if it's ain't broke?
In fact, we're putting out the repeats. No one will notice. It's a difficult thing with a sitcom because you've got to move it on a bit. Otherwise, you might as well watch the reruns. But you mustn't change it too much because it's not what they, you know and love really. Yes. So, and because it's based in realism, that actually helped this time around because however much you think you know Brent, you've only met him for 3 hours, and how well do you know someone after 3 hours? So I think it's got, we continue the Dawn, Tim, will they, won't they? So we haven't changed it drastically. There's probably a little bit more plot and structure, just because you can't just do another 3 hours of observations, because it get a bit, yeah, we know what you're doing. So it's moved on a little bit, but hopefully, as you say, it's not broke.
Well,
so.
What we've seen so far has been absolutely marvellous. So obviously, we look forward to the new series.
Thank you.
And Ricky Gervais, thank you very much. You did very well, actually.
Is that over? What was I worried about?
What were you worried about? What was it to be bothered about? Do you?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's hear a song from Norah Jones first of all, and then we'll start again. Ricky Gervais.
Thank you.
Thanks to Ricky Gervais, Kate Adie, Michael Palin and Norah Jones. Next week, my guests are actor and comedian Robin Williams, actor, comedian and most other things Stephen Fry, and the evergreen singer-songwriter James Taylor. Until then, here's singing her latest single, Come Away With Me, Norah Jones. From all of us here, a very good night. Good night.
Come away with me, and I will write you a song. Come away with me on a bus. Come away where they can't tempt us with their lies. And I wanna walk with you on a cloudy day in fields where the yellow grass grows knee high. So won't you try to come away with me, and we'll kiss on a mountain top. Come away with me, and I never stop loving you. Come away